All right, happy week 3. Thought primer number 3. The thought primer we're working on this week is going to explore two categories of ethical theories. We're going to look at consequentialist theories and we're going to look at non-consequentialist theories, and we're going to jump into an exploration of our first consequentialist ethical theory called ethical egoism. Now, thought primer number 3 looks very similar to the thought primer that you completed last week, with one really important exception, and that is here in part 1. In part 1, I'm asking you to download a copy of your Ethical Inquiry number 1 prompt. Now, you're not going to work on Ethical Inquiry number 1 at all this week, but I do want you to have a copy of that assignment prompt. Why? Because when you open up that assignment prompt, you're going to see that there's a series of questions for you to respond to. And you're going to notice that the questions that you're being asked to respond to are questions that we're exploring in our reading and in our video lectures each week. So you can see here the first 3 questions on Ethical Inquiry number 1 are about the ethical theories we explored last week: subjective relativism, emotivism, and cultural relativism. And they're asking you to do things like define these theories. Wouldn't it have been great to know last week that you were going to be working on an assignment in the future that asked you questions about the material that you explored last week? But this week, since you do know that, and you do now know that Ethical Inquiry number 1 includes some questions on ethical egoism, and we're going to be exploring ethical egoism this week, you know that it's really smart for you to be taking notes about ethical egoism that you're based on your readings and based on your video lectures. And then in 5 or 6 weeks, when we do begin to work on Ethical Inquiry number 1, you can go right back and pull those notes that you took this week, and you can use those to help you answer the questions on Ethical Inquiry number 1. All right, so back to thought primer number 3, you're going to see that you've got some reading to do. You've got some reading to do out of your textbook. And once again, I've linked the required chapters as PDF files here. So if you don't have the textbook, that's fine. No excuses. The readings are linked right here for you. And you've also got some reading out of Justice, which I'm hoping that you'll really like. Okay? And once again, there's a quiz that you're going to be completing that's related to the readings, quiz number 4. So good practice is to have that quiz open on your computer screen as you're doing your reading so that you can be answering those questions correctly. Now, part 3 has a link to another page. And that page contains the questions that I want you to respond to for this thought primer, the questions that are intended to get your thinking kind of primed up. And one of the questions, question number 1, has to do with an event that's described in Justice by Michael Sandel about Hurricane Charlie, a hurricane that happened in Florida some years back. So you'll respond to the question about that. And then what you'll see is a series of 4 dilemmas A, B, C, and D. And what I'm asking you to do with these dilemmas is to think about the situation that the dilemma outlines, the intention of the person acting, the action the person takes, in this case, me, and what happens as a result of that action. And I want you, for each one of these dilemmas, to determine whether or not you think that what I've done is moral or immoral, and to really think about why you're judging the action the way that you do. That's the important thing, is when you consider these dilemmas, what is it that you're looking at? Are you looking at the situation? Are you looking at my intention? Are you looking at my action? Or are you looking at what happens as a result of my action to determine whether or not what I did was moral or immoral? All right? So you'll have those as your responses that you're going to be submitting via the Thought Primer number 3 assignment page. And then, of course, you'll have a series of short video lectures to watch, and quiz number 5 open on your screen as you're watching those video lectures, because all of the questions in quiz number 5 come from the video lectures. And once again, after you've submitted your responses to the Thought Primer questions via the Thought Primer number 3 assignment page to me, and you get that one of the 2 points for this particular Thought Primer, you're going to jam on over to the discussion board, and you're going to participate in the pinned discussion threads for this week, and that's how you get that second of the 2 points for this Thought Primer. So you submit your responses to the questions via Canvas to me, you participate on that discussion board, you've got 100% for this Thought Primer, and as is the case with every week, if you can manage to get your responses to the questions in the Thought Primer, and you can manage to participate in the discussion board discussion by Thursday at 11:59 p.m., you'll get an extra credit half point for this Thought Primer. Okay, so the Thought Primer is due Sunday at 11:59 p.m., but if you can get all this stuff wrapped up by Thursday at 11:59 p.m., it's an extra half point for you. And you can continue to participate after Thursday at 11:59 p.m. in the Canvas discussions. So you're not you're not excluded from the conversation just because you get your work in early. You can keep participating in the conversation. All right, anything comes up that I can help with, just shoot me an email.